Final week of March pushed the limits of mechanical endurance and strategic bravery, shifting the narrative of the season from raw manufacturer speed to the unpredictable outcome of a closer. At Martinsville Speedway, we saw Chase Elliott and Hendrick Motorsports rewrite the strategic book to snap a dominant Toyota streak, while Justin Allgaier survived a short track meat grinder to extend his O'Reilly Auto Parts Series legacy. On the dirt, the World of Outlaws delivered a masterclass in psychological warfare, from a Macedo sibling duel in Missouri to a Buddy Kofoid's heart-stopping last lap heist in Kansas. From 19 car pileups on the asphalt to record-breaking speeds in the heartland of dirt, the 2026 season has officially transitioned from a test of equipment to a war of nerves. I'm Russ Fritz.
And I'm Nathan Johns telling you to strap in tight because this isn't just racing.
This is Switchin Grooves. And a double shot of espresso because I've spent the entire day merging a mountain of data from the Midwest Bull Rings and the Virginia Piedmont, and we have a lot to unpack in this deep dive. We're seeing
Oh,
a
I'm
tech.
excited for tonight.
We are seeing a real technical convergence right now. Teams are finding that pure horsepower isn't enough when you're dealing with the attrition of the Heartland or the Paperclip at Martinsville. Per the request of the Groove Nation, we're putting the mud on the tires first. We are diving into the world of outlaws and high limit racing before we get into the short track carnage in NASCAR. Stick with me because I have got the technical details on the strategy calls and mechanical failures that shook up the championship standings this weekend. So, Nathan, we have to start with the greatest show on dirt because the Heartland Swing was absolutely electric. Friday, the series hit the High Bank Bull Ring at US 36 Raceway in Missouri for the first time in years. The story of the night was the Macedo family feud. Carson and Cole Macedo shared the front row, and let me tell you, Carson did not give his younger brother any bit of an inch. In the opening laps, Carson was stalking Cole so aggressively they actually made contact. Carson's front wing clipped Cole's right rear, and it was in a move that had the Jason Johnson racing crew holding their breath. Carson eventually executed the pass to take the lead, but the drama didn't end there. Late in the race, the number 41 machine was visibly down on engine power, which allowed Buddy Kofoid to actually close the gap in a massive fashion. They raced wheel to wheel on the penultimate lap, the last lap, but Carson actually muscled it home for win number 59 of his entire career. That moves him into sole possession of the 16th all-time winners list position, I should say. But if Friday was about family, Saturday at 81 Speedway in Kansas, uh, which was actually the Tallgrass Tussle, was actually about pure robbery. And the night started with the track record being shattered twice in qualifying. First by Donnie Schatz, then decimated by David Gravel with a blistering 12.887 second lap. The feature was dominated by 18-year-old sensation Ryan Timms, who actually led 29 out of the 30 laps and looked like he was cruising to a breakout win. However, Buddy Kofoid reminded everyone why he's the most dangerous closer in the sport right now. Methodically chipping away at a 4-second deficit, Buddy timed a deep slider into turn 3, and I mean deep. What a Hail Mary. Right on the very last lap, and it actually stuck, giving him the clearance on Timms and stealing the victory right at the line. We also saw a scary incident on lap 3 where rider LaPlante flipped and his car actually caught fire, but thankfully he was able to walk away. Gravel still leads the points by 48 over Carson Macedo, who earned hard charger honors on Saturday after charging from 22nd to 4th. Now, Nathan, shifting over to the high limit. Well, Tanner Thorson and the Rod Gross number 88 team just put a championship statement right on the board at Route 66 Motor Speedway in Texas on Friday night. Oh, in the series' first ever visit to the Amarillo 3/8 mile, Thorson was flawless, leading all 30 laps wire to wire. Home state favorite Aaron Reitzel didn't make it easy, though. He was all over Thorson's bumper in traffic, closing to within 0.133 seconds on lap 22. But Thorson's ability to find the drive in the middle of the track was the difference. Kerry Madsen also set a new track record of 11.863 seconds in qualifying. The big what if for the high rollers was Saturday's scheduled debut at Dodge City Raceway Park. But Nathan, the series had to make a difficult decision and a logistical call to postpone the event due to forecasted winds that were exceeding safe thresholds. And that just spells danger for the rigs, broadcast equipment, as well as the race cars. So it leaves Thorson with a 21-point cushion over Reitzel as the series takes a 3-week break until Lakeside. And in central Pennsylvania, well, the weather was a big winner on Friday and Saturday, causing cancellations at Williams Grove and Port Royal. But on Sunday, March 29th, the sun came out at Bass Motor Speedway for a Keystone King Classic. Troy Wagaman Jr. and Freddie Raymer put on an absolute clinic in a 30-lap feature, and Wagaman drew the pole and traded the lead with Raymer multiple times, throwing slider after slider until he finally made the winning move stick with just 2 laps to go. It was a massive win for Wagaman, who noted after the race that the track crew did an incredible job widening out the groove for the feature. So that's what I have for the dirt, Nathan. So let's bring you back. I don't know. You
I'm
must
here.
have done that one.
I did. I want to make sure you got your time in the spotlight because normally you put me in the spotlight, and normally I'm just sitting here looking silly. So I want to make sure you got your
Oh,
chance to
now it's your
have the
turn.
big spotlight. I know, right? So
So
we didn't
let
have
me.
any truck series this week, which is, I guess, a good thing.
Okay, so hang on a minute here.
Okay.
I got a little quick thing written up for the truck series.
Uh-oh.
Nothing big, but the truck series had an off week. The garage, though, was still buzzing about the Daniel Dye situation. As of today, Dye remains indefinitely suspended following his violation of the member conduct policy during a recent live stream. He's required to take sensitivity training before NASCAR will even consider any reinstatement. But looking ahead
Yeah,
to this
it's not
Friday,
looking good.
where are we going?
This Friday, we're going to Rockingham, which honestly is going to really hurt Daniel Dye because I don't know if he's ever been. Well, he might have raced last year in the what is now the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, but Ram is going to be missing crucial data for that truck with him not behind the wheel. I would assume they're going to have Allmendinger back, given the Cup Series is off. The biggest thing that's really going to stand out to me this week, and it's been a talking point for a good number of weeks now, is this is the week that Cleetus McFarland, aka Garrett Mitchell, gets behind the wheel of the RCR third car for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series with essentially a half a season's worth of ARCA last year, uh, one truck series start this spring, and now we're going to have an Xfinity or an O'Reilly Auto Parts Series start like just like that. I still question a lot of the reasoning behind Cleetus getting this ride. And apparently a lot of other drivers have too. I've seen Kyle Busch chime in. I've seen Denny Hamlin. I've also seen Ty Gibbs, which is a very interesting point of conversation because, you know, didn't race the truck series, got a lot of time in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, but also him being promoted to Cup was, in my opinion, a little premature. He's getting there. He's definitely run up front. He's nowhere close to, Denny Hamlin level of experience. But yeah, Denny Hamlin's been in the sport for quite some time. But, when you have Ty Gibbs, who's only been in the Cup Series for a matter of, I don't know, 3-4 years, maybe. That should be a sticking point where he's, been here for 3 or 4 years and is saying that somebody else shouldn't have been here this quick. Should, raise some red flags, in my opinion. I'm excited to watch the Rockingham race. It is Easter weekend, so there's a very good chance I will not be home. But hopefully I'll get to watch a little bit of it. So, I know Rockingham's not going to be an easy track for these guys.
Saturday's NFPA 250 at Martinsville was one of the most chaotic races I've seen in years, Nate. Justin Allgaier
I was shocked.
Justin Allgaier was the class of the field, leading 114 laps from the pole, and actually got his third win of 2026 and the fifth straight for Junior Motorsports.
Yeah. I thought Raja Caruth had it. He was running up front. Corey Day was even running up front. And it just, I guess, wasn't their days. I was actually kind of surprised to see all those guys up front. I mean, Raja's run good in the truck series there, so I kind of expected that from him in the O'Reilly series. But Corey Day, has made the news in all the wrong ways with his racing, and he was running up front for relatively clean, I thought, or at least from what I saw, it was relatively clean. But yeah, just go.
It was the massive 19-car pileup on a restart with 16 laps to go.
So yeah, that was crazy.
We had Lee Pulliam. I forget how to say his name.
I couldn't even pronounce his name. I had to just listen to them say it.
I'll say Pulliam. It sounds better. And he made his series debut, but missed his shift while starting on the front row. And it actually triggered a catastrophic accordion effect that decimated the field. I mean, wow.
It was a rookie mistake, but also it was his very first start in the O'Reilly Off-Road Series. I hadn't even heard of the guy until Saturday's Martinsville race, but apparently he's been in the sport for a while.
It's crazy. I haven't heard of this kid, but Dale Jr. Dale Jr. was on the radio immediately, and he was telling him that he'd handled the rest of the day like a pro, and he was there to reassure him that, hey, it happens. You're not gonna be perfect. Even the best, it happens too. So don't worry about it. Shake it off and move on. That was great of Dale Jr. And I got mad respect for that.
We're not in the Cup Series yet, but just to prove that point, Denny Hamlin, I think, missed a shift on one of those final restarts. It happens. Even the most experienced drivers do it. So I don't know if Lee will ever see this, but hang your head high, dude. You almost put on a clinic. Like up front, the majority of the day, I think you had one error all day. I give him high props to that. That was almost SVG level dominance. Like he was up front, really never left the top 5 whatsoever from what I saw.
Also have to give a shout out to Corey Day. He finished a career best second, proving that his dirt track sensory feedback is actually translating perfectly to the paperclip.
And after all the previous weeks, he's had issues with, controversial issues, I'll call it, because some of them were just boneheaded moves. I mean, it seems like it's finally, I wouldn't say it's sinking in, but, he's finally coming around a little bit. Didn't have any issues where he ran over teammates. Some of them were kind of questionable where he just driving over his head. This was not one of those weeks. This is one of those weeks where he kind of redeemed himself, in my opinion. I thought it was a great thing. Yes, I was about to get to that. The only reason Raja Caruth really didn't finish well was because him and Jesse Love had a bit of a kerfuffle coming to the white flag. And I forget who it was. I think it was the 19 car. Maybe it was either 19 or 18. Kind of just shipped Raja right off into the corner. So I understand the conversation. I'm glad that they were able to talk it out and, not come to fisticuffs. Because honestly, those two drivers, I've never seen them ever get to Jesse Love last year, I forget who it was, had words, I think with Nick Sanchez. Jesse Love of the two people was the one who probably has had the most experience in a fight. I haven't seen Raja Caruth get into one, but they're also very young talents. So I'm very, very pleased that they were able to talk it out. And I think after the words, Raja ended up admitting it was his fault. So it was kind of nice to see that they resolved it. I mean, I like seeing fisticuffs at times when it's warranted. I don't think this one warranted them fisticuffs. I feel like they handled themselves appropriately, and I feel like they managed to both de-escalate the situation. And I think that speaks great matters of how you should resolve it versus how people like Ty Gibbs and Sam Mayer and those people deal with it. So I only got part of that one.
Noah Gregson and Ross Chastain. Yeah, I wasn't close enough to my mic, but
I don't know. I still think that was the greatest mop spin I have ever seen.
Ross told him to knock it off 3 times, and he didn't. So he made him knock it off.
Ross made Noah Gregson go from Amish to the spin mop like that. And I thought that was the funniest part of that entire thing. He turned that bowl cut upside down, which was pretty hilarious in my opinion. That might be the greatest camera work I've seen from any really broadcast in a while, at least from Fox. That was the greatest angle I've ever seen. Don't do it. Don't do it. Bam! You turned his Amish inside out. That was great.
Yeah,
that's my favorite highlight. That is right up there with the Hail Melon, and that should speak matters to that. Like, that was the greatest clip from, I think, Ross Chastain in quite some time. He's got a highlight reel himself. It's just awesome.
I think the best part about the Hail Melon was all the other spotters and teams talking on the radio. That was like,
I was just at a charity event the other day and I showed it to people, and I still get goosebumps watching that video just because you can't believe it happened. And trying not to get too far off track, but that's one of those moments that you either had to be there to experience it, or you knew where you were when it happened, what you were doing, where you were when you saw it for the first time. I hate comparing it to Dale Sr., but it's like one of those moments where you knew where you were when Dale Sr. finally won the Daytona 500. I don't think it's quite to that level of insanity, but it's still one of those moments that you will remember where you were when you saw it, and you'll remember your reaction for the rest of your life, because it'll never happen again. It was so wild.
It was one of the ballsiest moves I've ever seen, but
and you still can't even do it again in video games. Ever since then, you can't even do it in real life. You can't even do it in the new video games. That's what makes it so funny. They made it so you can't do it in the video games. It's hilarious.
So finally, the main event, the Cookout 400. Nathan, now this was a strategic duel of the highest order. Denny Hamlin was the fastest car, leading
the most dominant.
He led a staggering 292 laps and swept both of the first 2 stages. But Alan Gustafson and Chase Elliott won it on the pit box.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh because the first thing that came to mind was this is last year's championship all over again. Hendrick Motorsports is just that thorn in Denny Hamlin's side. He just cannot get rid of them. And it's almost always over a pit road situation. Every time.
They made a clutch short pit call on lap 261 using the fresh tires to cycle into the lead during the green flag stops. When a caution flew for debris on lap 312, it actually reset the field and gave Elliott the clean air he needed to hold off the charging Hamlin. And this was the first win for Chevrolet in the Cup Series this year. And the crowd in Dawsonville is probably still celebrating.
I know the fans at Martinsville were absolutely going nuts during the interview. I thought there was a fight on pit road. You still hear the cheers. I thought that was the craziest thing ever. I mean,
Called it.
I saw that and I thought about it immediately. Is you cannot go wrong with Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Ryan Blaney Ryan Blaney was the only really Penske I could think of that would at least be somewhat competitive. And it almost came down to every single one of them being in the top 10.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the fact that Denny Hamlin cleared himself, I'm going to call it cleared himself. I don't think he got tight and ran out of room. I think he just cleared himself. He had his teammate below him. He tried to jump in line. If it had not been for Denny Hamlin just cleaning out Ryan Blaney, I think Ryan Blaney could have been a threat for the win. He at least could have threatened Denny Hamlin for, second. Instead, Ryan Blaney, I think, finished 8th. But I went back and I looked at my results. And in my NASCAR fantasy, I had Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott. I had Denny Hamlin, I had Christopher Bell, and I had Ryan Blaney. Every single one of them, almost every single one of them finished in the top 5, and all of them finished in the top 10, I believe. Every single one of my 6 drivers, including the one in the garage, which I think was Christopher Bell, finished in top 10. He might have finished 11th. But, I mean, Ross Chastain almost foiled me. I'm going to get to that next, Jason. That was one of my sticking points also, and I'm
the race was anything but clean behind the leaders.
Yes.
Kyle Busch actually received an uncontrolled tire penalty because his right front actually rolled into rookie Connor Zilich's car on pit road.
Actually, he punted it there. I watched the replay. That was I think that was more of a frustration move from Kyle than it was anything else. Because they took the right front tire across, it bounced off the wall, rolled straight out in front of them. You cannot tell me Kyle Busch did not see that tire go rolling back out in front of him. And rather than wait for the pit crew to go retrieve it, he just drives it out there and launches the thing like 6 feet in the air. I mean, it had to have been 6 or 8 feet up in the air when it bounced off Connor Zilich. Connor Zilich had the scuff mark halfway up the door. It was like way up by like the window net. He didn't just climb that car. That car basically went through the windshield almost. That thing was up there. And that's why the uncontrolled tire thing is such a major deal, is you don't want that coming off and hitting a crew member. I mean, it almost cleaned out, I think it was Ty Gibbs crew members as it rolled down pit road with the bouncing. That just shows how heavy those things are, because it even took him a second to catch it. But it just wild day at Martinsville.
Going off of Jason's comment, now, Bubba Wallace triggered a 12-car accident on lap 325, which ended his day and dropped him from 3rd to 11th in points.
Bubba being Bubba. That's my comments on that. I misjudged the corner is the biggest BS I have ever heard. I've heard of misjudging the corner. I haven't heard of somebody driving through somebody to miss a corner. You cannot tell me you misjudged it by that much. No, we love hearing from you, Jason. I think you're the only person who's actually chimed in this much, and I love it. It helps me get through these episodes. But yeah, I'm not giving Bubba any sense of that. Like, there's no way that has to be one of those trying to cover up what I did to everything. You know what you did. I mean, I'm pretty sure the first words out of his mouth was, I misjudged the corner, but I was also frustrated about, put 3 wide in turn 2. somewhere in those two statements, there has to be a middle ground of you misjudged, but you were also mad that you were put 3 wide. There is no, I misjudged it, but I conveniently was mad that, he put me 3 wide. We all know how Bubba works. He did the same thing to Kyle Larson, at Las Vegas. He got put in the wall and was mad, so we cleaned out Kyle Larson and ended up taking out, Christopher Bell. Like, there is a fine line between misjudged it and you were mad at a short track. And I'm pretty sure that line was crossed with that very next statement. Like, you can't exactly cover that one up.
Like
I
right
would not
back
be
to the
surprised if
same
they
old
go back
shit.
and look at it. I would not be surprised if, I'd be shocked if NASCAR doesn't look at the SMT data, because any normal fan could look into that and see that there's a deeper part of that. There's way more underlying facts there.
Well, before we get into our discussion portion of the show, we'll finish up here with the Cup Series now. But as we head into the Easter off weekend, Tyler
There
Reddick
is
actually,
no cup.
Tyler Reddick still maintains a massive 82-point lead over Ryan Blaney. So, and like you said, Cleetus McFarland is set to debut in O'Reilly this Saturday at Rockingham in the number 33 for Richard Childress. So that'll be interesting to see.
And there's no Justin there's no Alex Bowman at the next Cup race at Bristol. That is the last race that Justin Allgaier is scheduled. Keyword is scheduled to race the 48 car. Hopefully in the future we will get results on if Alex Bowman is coming back or if we're going to have another driver replace Justin Allgaier in the 48 car. Right now, it does look like the schedule does mirror. It does mirror the same schedule because they go Bristol, Kansas, Talladega in the Cup Series, and it's obviously Rockingham, Bristol, Kansas, Talladega. So it's very possible that we will have Justin Allgaier, maybe race one more week, week to week for Kansas. But, we still wish Alex Bowman a speedy recovery. We hope to see him back in the car soon. But this is the last week they have Justin Allgaier scheduled to run the 48 car 2 weeks from now in Bristol.
Just curious as to whether this is going to hurt his contract extension or not get one at all. To be honest,
I've read a little bit about Vertigo, and it does not look good. I've read in a few different articles that this essentially could be a career-ending injury. You don't exactly, you can't get rid of it. There really is no cure. It's just all physical therapy. It's very possible that he is going to be done racing with the 48 car if he isn't already. I really wonder if I'm really wondering if this will be the end of Alex Bowman racing in general, if he'll just be a team owner from now on in the in the micros, which is definitely sad to see. He's had his flashes, so I'm hoping that is not the case. But if that is the case, the next talks are, well, who's going to replace Alex Bowman in the 48 car, and that opens a world of possibilities because think about it, everybody's in a contract year except for like 4 drivers. I mean, obviously we've got a few that have taken away from that, but that was a talking point last season is there wasn't a whole lot of, silly season. This year is going to be absolutely nuts. If this is the end of Alex Bowman, what driver is going to fill in? Do we go another driver from Cup Series changing teams? Do we go O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and bring Raja Carruth up? Or do we bring Corey Day up? I mean, for all we know, Justin Allgaier might get the chance to run Cup Series permanently, which should be insane to me.
You never know what's going to happen. I mean,
this basically opens Pandora's box. There's all kinds of stuff that could happen if that comes true. Like, I'm actually kind of interested to see what they're going to do. If they deem Alex Bowman unable to return to the Cup Series, or basically he's ruled out permanently, this could literally open so many different options. Silly season was already crazy to start with. Now we're about to open a whole nother level of pandemonium, and I'm not sure I'm prepared for it yet. Like, I'm expecting chaos. I wasn't expecting that chaos. That's wild to me, and I'm not ready for it yet.
Dude, they could hire Kyle Busch back. You never know. I mean,
They could quite literally bring Kyle Busch back. That is a very valid point. And honestly, it could be wild. He could go from the 5 to the 8. I saw Corey LaJoy and I thought about it, but at the same time,
no, I don't
I
think so.
cannot see them bringing Corey LaJoy back.
No,
Honestly,
I don't know
there
about
is a
Heim.
lot of things like Heim. I can't really see swapping, switching teams. He currently is a 2311 part-time driver.
Speaking of 2311, where's Riley Herbst stand with his contract?
I didn't
Because I
even know he
know,
existed still. That's how much I see him
yeah, but
anymore. That's
I
the
only
crazy
say that
part.
I say that because I know that he brings a lot of money along with him in sponsorship.
The thing is I can't see him racing for a third manufacturer in 3 years.
You never
I
know.
don't know if I could see him doing that. He brings a lot of money, but also he's Monster. I can't
But
see
then
Hendrick going to Monster because they just started a sponsorship with that new Form Energy.
I
I feel
never
like that's
thought
going to be a.
I would never thought I'd see Kyle Busch at RCR either.
I mean, that's true, but I feel like the only reason Riley Herbst is with 2311 is
Jesus.
because he's got a Monster sponsorship. So does Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick, I think, drove Monster for the longest time. So does Gibbs. So they all kind of have it. Yeah, I second that. I cannot see Riley Herbst driving for Hendrick. And there's a good number of reasons. I mean, Hendrick just started this new, I think it's Form Energy sponsorship, and I think that's supposed to go for a number of years. I can't see them bringing Form Energy and Monster on board because what else? Who else sponsors, Riley Herbst? Chumba Casinos. He still can't do anything at their cars. I don't think anybody. Bubba Wallace, is the only one who's won with Chumba Casinos. Might have been Tyler Reddick. I think he's actually won 2 races with them. But it's like, you know, I can't see Hendrick taking Riley Herbst and Monster and throwing out Form Energy. I mean, not a whole lot of people know Form Energy, but that contract is so new. I can't see that happening. And I really, really, really hope it's not Corey LaJoy. I mean, he
Yeah, but
talks so highly about Brad, and he did good in Chase Elliott's equipment, but then really couldn't do much else with it.
you never know. They could put it on a different car, but
I mean, honestly, the theory of Kyle Busch coming back to Hendrick doesn't exactly seem out of the realm of possibility. I still think it's a little far fetched, but by week to week, it still seems like it's getting more and more realistic. I mean, you saw his frustration in Martinsville with RCR. Their qualifying effort was absolutely dismal at best. And then they had pit road issues. They basically weren't talked about all day for anything positive. It was all negative.
tell you this,
Yeah, the Bubble Wallace one's one I can think of, and I know Tyler Reddick has won. I think he won at Coda this year with them. I think, but they've had at least three wins this year, and I thought 2 of them were with Jordan, and the other one was Chumba Casinos. I think.
going back to Kyle Busch coming back to Hendrick. That's I don't see that as far fetched at all because, in my opinion, strictly my opinion, I do not. uh, Okay, let me reword this. I am not a Kyle Busch fan whatsoever, but the talent is still there. I think the team has a lot of issues within itself, and that's what's keeping Kyle from finishing better, winning races, and getting back to the top where he was before. It's not the fact that he's out of his prime, because Denny Hamlin's still in his prime, and he's, he's older than Kyle Busch. So I think if you could get him the right equipment and the right team behind him with the good speed and, you know, good strategy, I think he could be right back at the top.
I do kind of wonder, and I was looking through the O'Reilly Auto Parts standings, and it came to my attention. I didn't really think about it. Anthony Alfredo is their sim driver. In the event that Alex Bowman is no longer, allowed to race, he's no longer, I would say disqualified. That's not the word I'm looking for. He's ineligible to race due to his injury. Anthony Alfredo is their sim driver. Now, granted, I was not impressed with his Phoenix race. That was probably the most dismal performance I've ever seen out of a Hendrick Motorsports car. He was kind of just out to lunch, I feel like. That could be just because they're not used to him, not used to him driving it. They hit Allgaier the week prior, and then they had, Alfredo in the next 3 weeks were all, Allgaier. So it might be just that one-off week, and all of a sudden he's really good at, say, Kansas. But in the event that, say, they don't get him back this year, Anthony Alfredo finishes out the year, we could see Justin Allgaier come in. I don't think Rajah Caruth is ready to come to the Cup Series yet. I don't think Corey Day by any means is ready to come to the Cup Series. But just look at the standings. Carson Kvapil, really, I don't feel like he's there yet. Sammy Smith, not really. We talked about Rajah already. There is not a whole lot of options for Hendrick when it comes to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and I feel like there's a big difference between Cup and O'Reilly, or Cup and Truck Series. And looking through the Truck Series, there's not a whole lot of potential there either. Like, I can't see Daniel Hemrick doing it. Connor Mozak, I believe, is a Spire driver. Can't really see him doing that. And we're down to 22nd now with Chris Wright. Anybody who thinks Chris Wright should drive for Hendrick has lost their mind. I mean, Crash Wright is what it is. That's my nickname for him. I cannot see him doing it. I do not see a whole lot of hope in lower series, and it is a bit concerning to me that that's where we're at. And I'm just realizing this now, that Tony Stewart and Cleetus McFarland have the same points deficit from the leader in the Truck Series. That's pretty funny to me, that a 3-time Cup champion and a guy with one truck start have the same point standings currently. Like, if Cleetus gets another start, he's going to pass a 3-time champ, which is hilarious to me.
I say just throw Cleetus in the car and be done with it. He'll learn.
They throw Cleetus in the car for the 48 car, and I may have to stop watching, because you throw him in there for one race, and I'm sure it's going to be an absolute spectacle, and it's going to be an absolute shit show.
It would be interesting.
I think Ty Majeski would be okay, but I don't think he is ready for Cup Series at that caliber. Nothing against Ty Majeski, but I feel like that is a huge jump. And I know that he's raced late models. Obviously, he's raced the Snowball for how many years? He's been in the Truck Series. He's absolutely tearing it up in the 88 truck, which is way better than Matt Crafton performed. But at the same time, I feel like that is a bit of a stretch. I'm going to pop that up on the screen. I can't see Ty Majeski jumping to the Cup Series and really doing much better than, Connor Zilisch right now. Like, Connor Zilisch has an insane racing resume, and he's really kind of just learning the ropes in the Cup Series. I don't know, with Ty Majeski never making a Cup Series start and also he drives for Ford currently. I don't know if I could see that being a good fit for him. But, obviously I'm not the guy making the checks out at Hendrick. Honestly, I would love to see somebody from their pipeline come up. Would not be surprised if, say, they promote somebody from the O'Reilly Auto Parts series and they bring Lee Pullman in or whatever. I can never pronounce his name. Just like Russ was having problems, I can't do it either.
Pulliam.
I would be Pulliam. There we go. I honestly, really think if they promoted somebody for the O'Reilly Auto Parts series and they brought Lee Pulliam in based on that performance at Martinsville, I feel like that would be a very interesting way to go about it. But I can't see it very far-fetched because Lee he jumped in there like he'd been doing it for quite some time in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. Went out there and was running in front of the field. I honestly think they're going to take somebody from O'Reilly. I'm leaning towards Allgaier, but Allgaier also didn't really have a great Cup Series thing. But then again, this would also add his name or add to his resume with the debate of, is he Hall of Fame worthy? He jumps in this car next year and ends up winning a few races once he's comfortable. I think that could easily tip the scales a little bit because there's this big debate going on about, is Allgaier Hall of Fame worthy? And the debate is it NASCAR Hall of Fame or is it Cup Series Hall of Fame? And I think, I know it's the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I don't think he has had a Hall of Fame worthy career yet, but he does. He has starts in all three series, but I don't feel like he is Hall of Fame worthy quite yet. I mean, Russ and I think you had we had this conversation like a week ago when this first came up, is all these Hall of Fame drivers have had an impact in the sport by some way, some form. Doesn't mean they made it to the Cup Series, but they have a well-known impact. T-shirts. You'll have to get with Russ on that one. I gotta finish this before I forget what I was saying. All these drivers that are in the Hall of Fame have had some sort of lasting impact in the sport. They are well known for different highlights. They're well known for their stats. And, when you think of that driver, you can rattle off the list of achievements they have. For me, and I have to think other people, the list of achievements, most people don't really know them. Like, he is an O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion. He's got the number one wins in the current full-time drivers in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Kyle Busch has probably double his wins, if not more. I think Kyle Busch is more of a Hall of Fame worthy driver than Justin Allgaier. I mean, just to prove my point, Kevin Harvick was one of the nominees for the Hall of Fame in 2027. I can literally rattle off the achievements he's had. He is more worthy of the Hall of Fame than Justin Allgaier by a good margin. Like, there is a substantial margin.
Huge margin.
I mean, I have to go look up who the other nominees were because Greg Biffle was one of them. I feel like that's kind of a sympathy one, but at the same time, he has had a massive career. He was only one, series championship away from having the trifecta. He was a Truck Series champion, was a Busch Series champion. He had multiple wins in the Cup Series. Came close, I think, in the Cup Series in a championship. Allgaier really doesn't not have a whole lot of, really stats that build his resume in the Cup Series. He's been mostly O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And I think Matt from Brake Card brought up the point of, some people just burn out, or they stick to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, the Busch Series, Nationwide Series, because that's what they're good at. And they know they can't compete in the Cup Series. I can understand that fact. But at the same time, that also kind of hurts your ability to kind of get to the Hall of Fame the way other people have. I mean, Kevin Harvick has a list of achievements. Daytona 500 champion, Cup Series champion, Busch Series highlights galore. He's called the closer, for crying out loud, for well-known reasons.
Two Busch Series championships.
Yes. I mean, heck, he owned a team at one point. Ron Hornaday, I think, drove for him at one point. You kind of have to have some sort of, well-known impact on the sport to get into the Hall of Fame, I feel. Most of these people that are in have some sort of major well-known impact. Or if it wasn't well-known, it's known now that they're in.
Plus, he was the first guy to win the championship under last year's format style.
Yeah, like, I don't know where these all came up, but
so he's also the only guy to jump over top of a car and go after Ricky Rudd.
He had the Ricky Rudd incident. He had the Greg Biffle incident. It'd be hilarious to see them both get in. I really wish I could argue Justin Allgaier's case, and do it justice. I don't know if there's anything I can argue to do that. Like, there is not a whole lot for me to argue to help that case.
It's not to say that he'll never be worthy of it. Just right now.
Right now, it's not worthy.
He's not even old enough.
Someday down the road, maybe. I mean, that's like saying, a current driver is eligible. Full-time driver, mind you. I thought that disqualified you. Jeff Gordon had to be out of the sport for how many years to get eligible? Jimmy Johnson had to be not full-time for how long? I think he was an IndyCar driver at the time when he was, nominated.
To be honest with you, it's a silly debate for people to even be having right now, because he hasn't even finished any of the accomplishments that he could have in the future. So right now, it's not even worthy of an argument with anybody. So
let me just read off some of these names on the modern ballot, and I'm sure most people will know these things, but just for craps and giggles, I'll read off some of their stats. Greg Biffle, Truck Series and O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion. We knew about that one. Had a few wins in the Cup Series. Neil Bonnet. Who doesn't know about Neil Bonnet? He is an 18-time Cup winner, had consecutive Coke 600 victories, just to name a few of them. Tim Brewer was a Cup Series, championship crew chief. Jeff Burton, who doesn't know Jeff Burton? He's really obnoxious in the NBC booth, but, he does have a legit case there. Randy Dorton built, engines for across all three national touring series. Ray Elder is a 6-time ARCA Menard Series West champion. That would qualify you. If I've won 6 championships, I think that would qualify me. Ernie Elliott was a crew chief for 2 Daytona 500s and 2 Southern 500s, and he won the 1988 Cup Series championship as a crew chief. You got Kevin Harvick. We've already talked about that. Randy LaJoie is a 2-time O'Reilly Auto Parts Series champion and won the NASCAR North Tour championship. And Jack Sprague is a 3-time Craftsman Truck Series champion. If somebody can show me proof that Justin Allgaier can compare to any of those people on the list, or can outstat any of those people on that list when it comes to their accomplishments, then I could argue that case. But, I cannot see that. Yeah, Frank Kimmel was one I was kind of surprised by. I feel like he was pretty well known in NASCAR. I'm surprised he hasn't made it yet.
ThorSport, I believe.
But it's not the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And I can understand why he's not, but it is a little surprising he isn't in there yet. It's maybe possible he'll get in there soon if he hasn't already been nominated. I thought he was on there for some reason at one point. I know they only get a certain amount of time. But then we got Ray Fox, Harry Hyde. Who doesn't know the name Harry Hyde? I mean, come on. Banjo Matthews, that name's been mentioned in how many different NASCAR documentaries for numerous things. You got Herb Nabb. He's a two-time Cup Series championship winning crew chief, ranks third on the all-time win list at 92. That's pretty good stats. Larry Phillips is a five-time weekly series champion, national champion. I mean, you don't have to even be part of, actual NASCAR apparently to get this. But I can't argue Justin Allgaier's stats. Yeah, exactly.
It was Harry Hogg, but
for who
Harry
doesn't
Hyde, yes.
know, who doesn't know the name Harry Hyde? Days of Thunder fans obviously know that one. I knew it just because of Days of Thunder. But it's crazy when you learn about the history of the people they're actually trying to portray. I think it's the word I'm trying to use. Like, there's so much here that, outdoes Justin Allgaier's, resume that I don't even know why this is an argument. Like, it's really concerning to me that we're going to have this conversation when he's still a full-time driver. It's not like he's leaving anytime soon. And even if he were to retire from the O'Reilly Automotive Series right now, I still don't even know if he'd have enough to, compare to any of these. Yeah, that's another one. I'm kind of surprised Smokey Unick is not in. Kevin, thank you for putting that in there. That is a very valid point. I'm kind of surprised he is not in the Hall of Fame.
Unick's the only guy to be able to take his gas tank out of his car and drive away.
I mean, I feel like that would have been a pioneer one. I don't know if that's a modern ballot one, but I certainly feel like that is a pioneer ballot. He basically, most of those rules in the rule book were about him. He pioneered like 95% of that rule book.
He was the reason the rule book was written.
Exactly. He alone should be. I hadn't even thought about him. That is a very, very good point. If Smokey Unick isn't in the Hall of Fame, why the heck would Justin Allgaier in the Hall of Fame? Smokey Unick should go in this year's ballot, if not next year's for sure. I'm shocked because I didn't even think about that till just now. That is a very good point. Yes.
Speaking of Hall of Famers, what about the Dirt Track Hall of Fame? I'll tell you, guys currently now, like guys like David Gravel, love him or hate him, not a big fan of him myself, but
yeah,
that guy's going to be a future Hall of Famer. Buddy Kofoid is going to be a future Hall of Famer as long as he keeps up his performance. I mean, the kid has just got raw talent.
Kyle Larson, I feel like, deserves to be in the Dirt Series Hall of Fame. I mean, heck, he runs the High Limit Series, so that alone, I feel like, would put him, at least give him some points of interest. Plus, he's got how many different wins and how many different divisions in dirt. I think he's won.
The year that he got suspended.
Brady Bacon's another one.
Brady Bacon's an asshole. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to show that one.
Well, it was the bonehead move that he pulled at Attica last year and got a driver hurt. I don't have any respect for that guy. So I'll leave it at that. But you've got guys that, like, well, to back up, for Kyle Larson to go out the year he was suspended from NASCAR and to win over 60 dirt races in a season, that's incredible.
I feel like that would qualify him for a Dirt Hall of Fame. I don't know if I'm considered a sprinter in general.
He didn't do that like some of the guys we got around here. They win 30 races a year between two different tracks. And that's it.
Yeah.
Larson went.
He did it everywhere.
He went all over the country, picking and choosing, and he just dominated the dirt scene.
Yeah.
So
I still stand by my point is based on, what you just said, Russ. I still stand by my point. Kyle Larson is definitely Hall of Fame worthy when it comes to dirt. Like he could definitely be one of the GOATs of dirt.
Sorry,
but
Jason,
when it comes to NASCAR, he is about as average as you can get. Yes, he won 10 races in 1 year. That didn't break any records. I hate to break it to people who think Kyle Larson is the greatest of all time across all genres of racing, but IndyCar obviously wasn't for him. NASCAR didn't break any records. The record is 13. He won 10. Sorry to say it, it wasn't even just Jeff Gordon that set that record, and everybody likes to use that fact against me. It was not just Jeff Gordon who set it at 13. Richard Petty set it at 13 also. So until somebody can win 13 races in 1 year, it's really nothing special. They run less races now.
Have
I was
absolutely
so confused.
no respect for guys to pull moves that could get others hurt like Bacon did. I was sitting literally in the pit bleachers at Attica when he pulled that move on Caleb Henry, and Caleb hit the pole literally right in front of us, and you could hear the sudden stop and thud, and it
What
was
about the
absolutely ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, Caleb Henry to come back the very next All-Star race, he got, he had some time off from the local scene, but because the All-Stars were, obviously they weren't racing for a few weeks, and he came back the very next All-Star race to win that, and then to actually make a comeback the rest of the season and win the championship. Now that guy's going to go somewhere as long as he keeps up all the hard drive and the passion that he has. And I'll tell you, I think it's a shame that some of these empty seats in these bigger series did not call him or give him that opportunity this coming year.
Kevin, I'm not familiar with that name, so I'll do a little bit more research on it. Uh that's
Hank
more
Kavanaugh,
Russ's
yes.
specialty. Yeah, I think that I think I have heard Kavanaugh. The name I just couldn't pronounce, so that makes more
That's
sense.
that
That
would
sounds more
be
familiar.
Christopher Bell's wife's uncle,
What, Scotty
Brian
Williams
Kavanaugh.
or Kavanaugh? Okay, never
Brian
mind.
Kavanaugh. Brian
Okay.
Kavanaugh is one hell of a crew chief, and
I've
I'll tell
heard
you
of
what,
that name.
that man knows sprint car inside and out.
I didn't know how to pronounce the name, that's why I didn't know it. So I know Frank Kavanaugh, I didn't know the Brian part. So I can understand that one.
Chad's brother, I believe.
I think that's right. What about Jason wants to know what about Scotty Williams?
I've heard of him. I don't know a lot about him, so I won't
That'll be
say.
something we'll have to do research on.
Yeah, I won't say anything good or bad about him because I don't really know him that well, but I have heard of him. Yes.
But I just want to bring this kind of full circle with this. Yes, Kyle Larson is amazing on dirt. I think he deserves to go into a dirt Hall of Fame, if not all of them, really. But when it comes to NASCAR, everybody likes to say that he's so great in NASCAR. He has yet to really break any records that have been set or set any new ones. Like, team records, maybe. But at the same time, his stats really don't qualify to the people that he's competing against. Jeff Gordon had 23 years in the sport, had 93 wins. Kyle Larson has been in the sport, we're going to say, since 2013. I think it was 2013, 2014 area with the Cup Series. If you take that 1 year off, you subtract that from the total, he still has to win 93 races? Or no, I think he's at 30. He has to win 60 some races in the next 8 years. He basically has to win every single race the rest of this year, including the Open, which no longer exists, the Clash, and both duels to even get close to 93 wins. And he has to do that all of this. He had to win every race this year, every race next year before, he gets to the same amount of starts as Jeff Gordon.
Let me say this. I think I'm not gonna sit here and say he's the greatest thing since God knows what on the asphalt, but
Definitely not the
when
greatest
it
thing since sliced bread. Sorry, I had to put that out there.
no,
He's not
yeah,
Joey.
but what makes Kyle Larson so popular and such a great race car driver overall is his diversity to
Yes.
get in any kind of car and be able to handle it.
And at least compete. I won't say that. I think competing is the more incredible aspect of that. Compete. Winning, puts you to a whole other level. There is a little bit of a difference between competing and winning. I mean, I will. That one I can agree with. AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti. Sorry, I said it wrong. AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti. I have actually made that comparison that he is not as good as them, but he can compare to them. And I've made that point to how many different people that, yes, he has pretty similar stat lines, or at least the same trajectory as them, but still, you can't really compare them to the greats like those two. He's
See if he
there,
wants
but I
to
don't see if he can do it.
see if he wants to come on for an interview sometime, Jason. We'd love to have him.
I mean, he could even tell us some of his stats because I mean that's what I would love to have a driver on. He can inform us along with spread the word about himself also because I've never heard of him before, but I'll do a little bit of research to learn about. It sounds like a cool thing to learn about.
Brandon Spithaler last year was our biggest
That was one of my favorite
interview.
interviews because I
That was
actually know
fun.
who he is.
The
That
only thing
was
that sucked about
huge.
that interview was the beginning where he had his phone sitting on the microphone, so you couldn't really hear him that well.
Technical issues, yeah.
But once he turned his phone around, it was all right.
Yeah, I enjoyed that was probably one of my favorite episodes because I've known Brandon for a good number of years because he's raced at Lernerville and I've seen him in the pits. But it
Those
was
are guys
nice
I
to
like.
kind of talk to him. Yeah.
The guys that just laid back, chill kind of dude, and he's just doing what he loves and having fun at it. And I tell you what, that's he never turns away a fan. I stop at his pit area every time I see him at the track, and
Please
he
do,
may he
Jason.
may
It'll be cool
not
to
he
get
may
into
not
that
have
interview.
a lot of time to talk to you, but he will at least acknowledge that you were there and say hello. And that's right along with Caleb Henry, you know, and those are 410 guys. I mean, even the smaller drivers, especially at the local level, guys that we have here, like Jimmy
Yeah.
McGrath or who else do we have? Michael Keegan, Brian
There's a few
Smith.
guys
I tell
I
you
know
what,
that I'd love to get them on for interviews someday. I haven't been able to put all the pieces together at once to get them on there. I mean, names that I would love to have on here is, Jeremy Weaver lives right down the road from me. He's definitely I've seen him go from modifieds to, running kind of towards the back in sprint cars to now he's winning sprint car races. He's doing, further drives. He used to only be local. Now I think it's not Bob Waring. I can't think of the guy's name, but either way, he's driving somebody else's car along with his car at times. I'm really looking forward to him moving up through the ranks. Jeremy's, great kid. He seems like he's getting way better. I love following you know, his track performance. It's getting way better. Another one is Carl Bowser. Anybody around Western Pennsylvania knows the name Carl Bowser. I feel like he just absolutely dominated when I was first getting into racing. Obviously he's going through a rough patch now. Now he's has his own has a new kid. I think Enzo is his name. I'd love to get Carl on because Carl is just a down to earth, great guy to talk to. I love talking to him at the track. Great to see him. You know,
so those are the
Brandon
kind of
was
guys I
fun to
like.
talk to.
I like the down to earth guys, and I like the guys that will voice their opinion and not hold anything back. Guys like Danny Dietrich. I would love to have Danny Dietrich. I would love to interview that guy just
Danny
because
Dietrich. Who was the other one?
and I tell you, I didn't I was on the fence about Danny, when I first started seeing him race and stuff like I know he's been racing for a long time, but I was actually out of the sport of sprint car racing for a while because I was promoting go-kart tracks and go-kart races. So, but when I started seeing Danny Dietrich, I was kind of on the fence about him, not good or bad, but seeing him stop his car over there in Pennsylvania, I forget what track it was, but stop his car and pull
I,
Cale Thomas out of the 1A car while it was on fire
I
and
think it
nobody
was
else
Port
did anything.
Royal. I
I'm
think
going to
that
tell
was
you
Port
what,
Royal.
that right there earned every bit of respect for Danny Dietrich right there because he could have just
Yes.
sat there and watched him burn, and he
Yeah.
didn't do that. He put his own life in danger to help another, and somebody that was a competitor. You know what? Mad props to Danny Dietrich for that.
Yeah.
I
And there's a lot
appreciate
of
that,
guys
man.
out there that, definitely bring that, bring that to mind. Sport, this sport is not about just winning. The sportsmanship, you don't see very much of it. That
Sammy
that
Swindell.
moment definitely sticks with me.
Oh, slamming Sammy.
I would love see. I know the Steve Kinzer name. I don't know a lot about him, but I do know that he was really good. Sammy
Oh, he was the
Swindell.
best.
I remember there was I forget what year it was,
Steve
but
Kinser's
I
won
remember
over 600 sprint car races, dude.
I know the name. I don't know the exact numbers. That's what I was trying to get at. Is I know the name. I know he's a legend. I just don't know the stats offhand. But Sammy Swindell, I think it was in the Channel Walk 1 car. I remember he had an incident at Lernerville, which is right near me, where he ran into the push track. And I didn't know anything about that until a few years ago when I saw that. And
Stupid.
I had no idea it was at Lernerville. And it blows my mind that that happened at Lernerville, which is like infamous for us nowadays, which is hilarious. But it's like all this stuff that happened. I just learned about this stuff, and it's kind of cool to learn about all these names. What happened to? Oh, there it is.
Stupid. Listen,
The
there's no doubt
goat.
about it. When it comes to
It took
Steve
me a second
Kinser,
to
I
read
mean,
what it said.
he's got over 20 World of Outlaws championships, over 600 sprint car feature wins. I mean, the man is just, I mean, you want to talk about the king. That's why they call him the king of sprint cars, man. Like,
Yeah,
because he is. Nobody will ever top Steve Kinser. Nobody. I mean, nobody's going to get 600 wins in their career. That's
yeah.
just not going to happen.
But I mean, with back to the Kyle Larson argument, and I want to give him credit. I think I read somewhere that he has won in every division they have raced at Eldora, which is an insane stat when you think about it. The only thing I think he hasn't won in is a 4-cylinder. Somebody get that man a 4-cylinder so we could just make it the 10 pack and be done with it. I mean, he's won in a sprint car, one in a micro, one in a NASCAR truck, one on a late model, one in a modified. What I don't think he might have ran in a big block modified and won. I mean, there's all kinds of different series that have ran at Eldora, and he has won in 9 of them. That is just mind-boggling to me that he has won in so many different series that have raced at Eldora. I think that stat alone should speak for itself for him to get into the Dirt Hall of Fame easily. Very easily. Excuse me. Steve Kinzer, I'm kind of surprised that name isn't in there because I know how much he means to the sport. Sammy Swindell, I'm kind of surprised. I think they're actually in, aren't they? I feel like they should be in if they're not. Okay, well, in that case, we need to get the Hall of Famers on the show. I
Well,
misread that stat.
I have to. I know some people. He's a lot like some other drivers. You either like the guy or you don't. But I have to give a shout out to another local guy. I did have his wing back here last the last 2 episodes. I switched the wing panels out, but that would be Trey Jacobs. That's Dean Jacobs' son in the 3J car. I don't know if he's driving someone else's car this year or not, but the family car is the 3J car. Trey has always been awesome to me, and when it comes to like giveaways that I would do at racetracks for kids, he never once turned me away for an autograph. he was always the first guy I went to and never gave me any crap about it. Walk up to him, he knew exactly what I was doing each and every race, and he's like, "You need me to sign your flag today?" And absolutely, I would get a bunch of autographs on these flags, and then I would just give them away to kids. Spend my own money, and not to brag or anything, just something I enjoy doing because the kids are the future of our sport. If we don't keep them interested, then it's gonna die. So that's why I did it. But Trey, you've always been awesome to me, man. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you this year, and best of luck to you, buddy.
One interview I feel like would be absolutely awesome to have this year if we were to do more interviews. We got to get Matt Tift. Got to get him on here to see if we can get him to talk about this new
I'm
Mansfield Speedway.
Dude, I am
I
still
feel like
trying
that'd
to
be a
figure out
lot
how
of
to get a hold
fun.
of him.
I've talked to him before at the track. I kind of wish I could get him to respond to me on Snapchat. But like I would love to have Matt Tift come on and talk about, this new Mansfield Speedway. I've been following along. They just added lights, I think, which is super exciting. I'm kind of excited to see this track come back to life.
They just added their lights. They just added their jumbotron about a month ago. I tell you what, man, I would love to go there and do an interview with him at the track and do a moving interview, and he could give us a tour and show us around. I know they're not finished yet, but I would love to be able to do that for the racing community. And I know that they're going to have their own podcast going on over there with their announcer Robbie DeVore. So that's
Or
going to
even
be
just a
awesome to
sneak
see.
peek, so they can do the grand, grand reveal for them. Show some of the features that most people aren't going to get to see. Just like the small tidbit. I feel like that'd be cool. The one interview that I really miss is I forget the guy's name. We did an interview with the one track historian. That was probably one of the
Oh,
most fun.
that was Aaron Fry.
That
That's
was
the
one of my
owner.
favorite interviews we did. Is talking
That's
to
the
that guy about
owner
all
and
the track.
the owner and the promoter of the Fast Series.
That was probably one of my favorite interviews. Was talking about all the different track and historical features. Like that was a lot of fun. And then we had the announcer for the Outlaws. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the guy
Lex
you talked to,
Robinson.
I
That
love
wasn't
talking to
it.
him. That was a lot of fun.
That was the All Star announcer, not the Outlaw
All
announcer. But
stars.
that was
That's
Alex
the
Robinson.
Outlaws. Yeah, the All Stars. I like talking to him. That was a lot of fun. The,
Alex was the one
all all
that
these interviews were my favorites. Like I had so much
Alex
fun with these
commented.
interviews.
What he commented like a week or two ago? Said, "Hey, every time I show up, you're always on NASCAR because he always shows up a little too late."
We got to keep it going until Alex gets here, right? No, I'm just kidding.
But
I
Nathan,
I actually like that interview.
we're getting low on time. Actually, we're over time, so
Oh no.
we need to wrap
Just
it up.
just like some of the NASCAR races, we went to overtime this week.
Yeah, we got to get up early and you know go make sure Uncle Sam gets his cut of the paycheck. So,
Yep.
but in conclusion, now the final week of March has codified the technical hierarchy for 2026. Chase Elliott's win at Martinsville proves that track position and aggressive strategy can successfully neutralize the raw performance advantage actually enjoyed currently by the Toyota and the TRD camp. While Tyler Reddick remains the benchmark, his struggle to break the top 10 at Martinsville suggests a vulnerability on flat technical layouts that rivals are beginning to exploit. In the dirt world, the closer mentalities of Buddy Kofoid and David Gravel are actually setting a high risk standard for the rookie class. As the Cup Series enters its off week, the spotlight shifts to Rockingham and the emerging crossover talents like Cleetus McFarland and Corey Day, whose sensory feedback is rewriting the playbook for both dirt and asphalt. So that's my closing statement. You have anything to add, Nathan?
It's gonna be a fun Easter week. Going to Rockingham. I'm excited to see this race. I'm very curious to see if it's going to, prove anything for Cletus, but only time will tell. But I'd like to wish everybody, obviously we won't be doing an episode till after Easter. I'd like to wish everybody in advance a happy Easter if you're celebrated, or if you don't, then I hope everybody has a great week.
Bring your race recaps, professional breakdown, and all those insane adrenaline packed moments every week. Whether you live for those sideways mudslinging dirt sliders or the door banging paint trading action in NASCAR, you belong right here. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss a finish. And until next time, keep switching grooves. I'm Russ Fritz.
And I'm Nathan Johns.
We're saying race hard.
Stay safe.
And we'll see you there. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.